Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. On Paneerselvam's surprise resignation as Chief Minister and Shashikala's election as the legislative party leader of the AIDMK and therefore presumably the next Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu has created enormous uncertainty in one of India's most critical states. Is it fitting for a person facing enforcement director cases and with a critical appeal pending in the Supreme Court to become Chief Minister? In these circumstances, should the governor administer the oath of office or seek to delay? Does Shashikala have the experience to be Chief Minister, and will AIADMK cadres accept her leadership? Those are some of the key questions we should address tonight. My guests are the editor of The Hindu, Mukund Padmanabhan, our former South India Bureau Chief, T.S. Sudhir, leading Supreme Court lawyer, C.R.M.S. Sundaram, DMK spokesperson, Manu Sundaram, and AIADMK spokesperson, Apsara Reddy. Apsara Reddy, there's no doubt that the AIADMK has the right to choose whoever they want as their legislative party leader and therefore presumably as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. But is a person who faces 4 FERA cases brought by the Enforcement Directorate and has a critical appeal pending at the Supreme Court in the disproportionate assets case, which could possibly go against her, the right choice to be Chief Minister?
Karan, as you're aware, every case foisted against our AIDMK leaders in the past, be it Purachi Talevi Amma or Chinnamma, they've been acquitted in most of the cases. These are all foisted cases. She will come out clean even on the FERA cases. And I don't think you can denigrate the democratic and legal norms followed by the legislature party in choosing her as the leader of the legislature party and the chief ministerial candidate.
So in other words, you're saying on the assumption or your conviction that she will appear clean, it doesn't matter that she faces these cases, and therefore it's perfectly proper and fitting to swear her in even before the Supreme Court gives its verdict next week. Is that your position?
The legislature party elected her before the Supreme Court decided to pronounce the verdict a week later. I think she's well within the legal norms and even morally to swear in as Chief Minister, because I'm 100% sure she'll come out clean. As history has demonstrated, there's no solid facts on which the cases have been foisted against our leaders.
Mr. R.M.S. Sundaram, yesterday, Mr. Chidambaram, a former Home Minister, in an interview to me told me that the governor has the discretion to refuse to swear in Shashikala until the Supreme Court verdict is announced. And as I said, that verdict will be announced next week. Now, I've got a twin question for you. First of all, do you agree with Mr. Chidambaram that the governor does have this discretion? And if you do, should the governor exercise that discretion and ask Shashikala to wait for the verdict? After all, it would only be a wait of 5 or 6 days.
Well, with great respect to Mr. Chidambaram, whose legal acumen we can have no doubt in, I'm afraid that the discretion which a governor has is very limited in these matters. The governor's job is to see that there is a stable chief minister in power. The usual course the governor adopts is to see who is the leader who has the maximum support amongst the legislators. And in this case, all 136 have supported Shashikala. It is therefore the duty of the governor to see that there is a chief minister in office, and it's a duty of the governor to see whether that chief minister has the support of the legislators. There is another factor which I find great fault in. If the governor had any manner of doubt on which he should need to exercise some discretion, for whatever reason I do not find the scope for that here, but if he did feel so, what was his enormous hurry and alacrity in accepting the resignation of Mr. Paneerselvam as Chief Minister? He should have asked him to defer his request for resignation for a few days. If that was his idea, it's almost like running after the horse has bolted. He accepts the resignation, leaves the state in a situation where there is no Chief Minister, and then where's the question of saying, now I will not swear in another Chief Minister till the Supreme Court decides a case? If I would be very happy if we had such clean politics that every leader with any charges against them or anything were actually didn't take office until all those charges were cleared. But don't forget, here there's a difference. Jayalalitha, Shashikala were all acquitted. It's not even as though there was a charge and a trial pending against them. They were acquitted, and as on date, they are completely innocent. There is today an appeal against acquittal which is awaiting decision. And the Supreme Court has said it will render decision in due course, perhaps in the next week, whenever their lordships are able to do so.
Okay.
That is not a reason. And to say that she should not become Chief Minister because her case is pending before the Supreme Court means Jayalalitha should also not have been Chief Minister by going by that yardstick, since her case was also pending by the Supreme Court. And I find legally this argument is completely unsound.
Manu Sundaram, let's sidestep this question of whether the governor has a discretion or not in the matter. Clearly, Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Arima Sundaram have very different polar opposite views. But the issue I want to put to you is this. The governor, regardless of whether he has a discretion in the matter, is clearly taking his time and he's in no hurry to come to Chennai. Do you get the feeling that he's actually finding a way of delaying the swearing in so that after 2-3 days, we know the Supreme Court verdict and there's no doubt hanging in the air? Is he trying to finesse this by simply delaying coming to Chennai?
Well, firstly, Mr. Thapar, we do not know whether the verdict will be out. Well, let's put it this way. There is no time limit for the Supreme Court to deliver its judgment. But the governor, I have just two aspects I want to highlight here. One is he does have a certain discretion, and this has been it is pretty well settled law if you go by the constitution bench judgment in the B.R. Kapoor versus State of Tamil Nadu case of 2002, and the discretion of the governor has been amply explained there. And secondly, under Article 159 of the Constitution, the governor has taken oath to defend, preserve and protect the Constitution of India. Now, if he thinks that he might take a decision and that might affect the constitutionality of the sanctity of the Legislative Assembly, then he is well within his right to take his time and seek appropriate legal counsel. Now, whether this is sufficient to be called or be termed a delay, that's a very subjective opinion. Some people may take 2-3 days to come to a decision like this. Now let us remember here that Mr. O. Paneerselvam and the Council of Ministers have resigned. So there is no Council of Ministers to aid and advise the governor. Now he is all on his own. He must consult constitutional authorities, because any judgment, any decision made by the governor will be subject to judicial review.
Okay.
And he will not be found wanting on any aspect of unconstitutionality. So it's a very sensitive position. I do not know whether he's delaying it, but I believe that he's well within his right to take a judgment, a call or a decision after consulting legal counsel.
Okay.
And he is entirely empowered by discretionary functions of the Constitution to do so.
Now, Mukund Padmanabhan, in the leader you wrote in the paper you edit the Hindu today, you raised a second reason why Shashi Kala should pause before she assumes the chair of the Chief Minister. You say it would have been better had she sought the people's mandate in a by-election before thinking of the Chief Ministerial chair. Why do you believe Shashi Kala should wait to be first elected to the Assembly before assuming the Chief Minister's office?
Yeah, we didn't make the point that it was legally necessary. We just think that, you know, the entire manner in which the succession had taken place, it would have given her more legitimacy if she had, you know, fought an election and won, and then staked her claim to the Chief Ministerial chair. It wasn't. We just thought it would be a better thing to do. We weren't saying that she was barred from, you know, taking up the Chief Ministerial chair right now.
So I presume what you had in the back of your mind when you wrote that leader is the controversial nature of Shashi Kala as Chief Minister, A, because of the cases, which is a point you made in the preceding sentence, and B, because she's not an elected person, and therefore you said it would be advisable and preferable for her to do it step by step, first get elected to the Assembly and then assume the Chief Ministerial office. Was that the reason? That it would be more fitting given her background?
I think so. I think, yeah.
So,
so.
What do you make of the fact?
Basically, the thrust of what we meant.
Okay. Sudhir, what do you make of the fact that yesterday social media was full of hashtags like "Not My CM," "TN says no to Shashi," and secondly, there were really no crowds of supporters outside the Poets Garden residence where Shashikala now stays. Normally, when a chief minister is about to be sworn in, you have hordes of supporters, enormous excitement, and great praise being expressed on social media. All of that seemed to be missing. So, what do you make of that?
Well, two things here, Karan. Yes, there were no crowds outside Poise Garden, not just on Monday, even today there are absolutely no crowds outside Poise Garden, which seems a little strange given the kind of political celebrations that we normally associate with the AIDMK or any other party in Tamil Nadu also. So that is definitely strange and perhaps reflects some kind of a lack of energy, lack of motivation, lack of enthusiasm among the AIDMK cadre to root for Shashikala as the next Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. But more important part is the first part of your question that you raised, the hashtags which have come on social media since Sunday evening. Now they reflect in New Chennai perhaps which you saw two weeks back at the time of the Marina protest, the Marina uprising. That's not the kind of Chennai that I have seen in the past. That's not the kind of Tamil Nadu that we have known. So what it reflects is a growing common man voice being heard on social media, on virtual media. They want to get their voice heard. That fear factor has reduced, especially probably after Jayalalitha's demise. People are coming out and talking about what they feel about the political issues. We saw that during the protest at the Marina Beach and also in Madurai. And what has happened in the form of the virtual media articulation of those feelings is something which we should welcome. And it's really some kind of a wake-up call for the political parties that they need to perhaps wake up and smell the coffee, or let's say the Chennai filter copy.
Okay. Apsara Reddy, the second key question is, did Mr. Paneerselvam voluntarily step aside, or was he nudged and pushed by a lady to whom he simply couldn't say no?
I'll come to that after I kind of respond to Mukund and to the other panelists who spoke. I think social media trends are not a true reflection of the electorate. All the MLAs were in consultation with their constituents and then came to the decision to elect Chinnamma as the head of the legislature. And second of all, I don't think there's any tearing hurry as everybody seems to be implying here. I think this is a very pre-planned party move. Just that the party chose her to be the chief minister shouldn't kind of reflect any tearing hurry. And of course, this is not a move to demean the administrative capabilities or the capacity of the chief minister. In fact, he himself
those are good points you make, Apsara. What about my question?
He's not a pushover. He's somebody who's a very senior
Paneerselvam step aside voluntarily, or was he nudged and pushed by a lady to whom he couldn't say no? Come to that now, please.
That is the question I'm answering, Karan, if you hear me right. He is not a pushover. Nobody can nudge and push a sitting chief minister. He's a very senior person within the party. He democratically spoke to his constituents, other MLAs, and he mooted the name of Chinnamma. He's the one who wanted to hand over the reins to her because he's looking for guidance and support and leadership from Chinnamma.
All right. Manu Sundaram, in his resignation letter, Mr. Paneerselvam cited unspecified personal reasons. Do you believe that that was the real cause for his resignation? And if you don't, will your party, the DMK, pursue this matter to try and find out the truth?
Well, we will certainly do that, but let us look at the larger picture. Mr. Paneerselvam, yes, has been an interim chief minister in the past. He was finally appointed as a proper chief minister on 5th of December, maybe an hour after the death of Ms. Jayalalitha. And hardly 2 months after that, you have him stepping down, citing personal reasons. And there could be a number of personal reasons. Now, what we need to see is if he's then reaccommodated into the cabinet or reaccommodated as a deputy chief minister, then whether those personal reasons have been wished away or not. But I think there's more to than what meets the eye here, because today what we are witnessing in Chennai is the dichotomy between the will of the majority party, which is the ADMK represented by its MLAs, and the will of the people. And I, for one, believe that's what the social media reflects. And if I would build on what Mr. T.S. Sudhir said, that's what we've seen from the Marina protest. The will of the people is not being accurately reflected by the majority party. So that's where the problem today is. And the governor, in my opinion, has also taken that factor into account, and hence the delay, hence the exercise of his discretion.
Please do not talk over each other. Please do not talk over each other. Mr. Sundaram, Mr. Arya Sundaram, there is a broader point here. A chief minister is the head of a government. Is it constitutionally proper to replace him in a casual, cavalier fashion without any public reason being given to the voters and the constituents who either elected him or the state that he rules over? It may not be against the letter, but is it not against the spirit both of the Constitution and the actual practice of democracy?
Actually, Karan, I think the answer really lies in the previous question which you were asking. What could be the reason? Because he cited personal reasons. Could that be the reason? Of course it's not personal reasons. How can it be personal reasons? Here is a person who became chief minister. He's willingly in politics. He has been an interim chief minister or a chief minister periods of time earlier. It's not a person who suddenly one day decided, I have personal reasons not to be in politics. Without a doubt, he stepped down as chief minister because he felt that the majority of the legislators would rather have Ms. Shashikala as the chief minister than him. He stepped down because he felt that he would not have the majority of the MLAs with him, whereas Ms. Shashikala would. Now, what he did was a completely political decision. It was a decision taken politically by the members of the Legislature Assembly. As to whether the large population of Tamil Nadu wants it or not, we never know till the hustings. The last time the DMK felt that the large population of the state of Tamil Nadu, the actual election showed them wrong. So today you might have 1,50,000. I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. But look, you may have 1,50,000 tweets, but you have a huge population there. And I think that is why our constitution quite rightly says that Chief Minister, the leader of the legislative party, will be the first among equals, meaning the other legislators will decide who it's going to be. Madam Jayalalitha was a giant. Once she is gone, neither a Shashikala nor a Paneerselvam is going to step into her shoes. But that doesn't mean the moment a giant of a leader goes, the whole party then has to give up office and go to the hustings again. On the contrary, our constitution quite rightly mandates. That's not the question I actually asked you, Mr. Sundaram. You as a party now decide I'm interrupting you because that wasn't really the question I asked you. The question I asked you was that is it constitutionally proper, not in terms of the letter but in terms of the spirit, for a head of government to be removed in such a casual and cavalier manner without the people of the state being given good public reason for the change? My answer to you is yes, it is constitutionally proper that a chief minister decides, because he does not have the support of the legislators compared to somebody else who'd rather have somebody else as their chief, to step down is constitutionally proper. Okay. Except for the fact that that wasn't made public. It might have been intuited by people, but it wasn't made public. Mukund Padmanabhan. Oh yes, you're right there. I do believe, in fact, that should have been... Which is why I said, look at the real reason. And in fact, do you think that real reason should have been made public? That there should have been honesty on the part of both Mr. Paneerselvam and the party? I think it's sub-silence over here. I think we all know the reason. All right, in other words, what's obvious needn't be actually expressed because we know it. Maybe that applies, but I think sometimes clarity is best obtained by stating the obvious rather than leaving it to people to intuit. Mukund Padmanabhan, the other problem is that Shashikala has no administrative experience, yet not only is Tamil Nadu one of India's largest states, but it also happens to be one of the most economically important ones. Should an untried person be put in charge of such a critical state?
If I might briefly, before attempting to answer this, just go back a bit. I think the issue is not so much, what Paneerselvam said in his letter. I mean, when Jayalalitha died, both the chief ministership and the leadership of the ADMK party was there for the asking. Shashikala could have had both at once. She chose not to. And having chose not to, and then having, putting Paneerselvam in the chair, I think the political question that needs to be asked is what changed? Why do you make the play that you made now? And I think that's the question I think that needs answering, really. But going back to the administrative experience thing, I know that she has had no experience as a legislator, but I think she's probably, cut her teeth in politics, at least being in the back room as she was, for so many years now. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure whether the lack of experience, a conventional experience politically, is something that we can hold against her. I mean, if that were true, we could have held it against Mrs. Gandhi, for instance, or somebody else. So I think I would leave that question open. But my concern is really about the cases that are pending and whether it was appropriate for her to have, taken this decision now, despite the fact that there was no legal infirmity in her becoming Chief Minister.
Sudhir, let me pursue this question about Shashikala's administrative experience being a handicap or not with you. At the moment, Tamil Nadu has the worst drought it's suffered for decades. There is also the Kaveri water dispute with Karnataka, which flashes into violence at one state or the other periodically. And then in either July or October, GST will start being implemented, and it's no great secret that the AIADMK government was by no means enthusiastic. Together, these constitute serious challenges for the government in Fort St. George. Do you think Shashikala has the capacity to handle these challenges?
Well, the jury will be out on whether Shashikala really has the administrative acumen. Yes, on paper, she has absolutely no administrative experience, and that will be definitely a big minus point. Politically, as Mukund pointed out, for the last 3 decades, given her experience of having lived with Jayalalitha, having dealt with a number of district secretaries, organized for a fact that she did have a say in the choice of candidates for both the 2014 and 2016 elections. So she does have political experience. So I guess she will be using that political experience and trying to use the more experienced ministers in her cabinet to tide over many a crisis that you mentioned. Yes, drought is going to be a huge crisis. Unofficially, over 200 farmers have died in the last 4 months, and yet you have a situation here where the political administration, the political establishment of Tamil Nadu is more concerned about who should be chief minister instead of actually concentrating on the huge agrarian crisis in the southern parts, the Kaveri Delta of Tamil Nadu. So yes, the lack of administrative experience is definitely going to be a huge concern, and whether she's able to reach out to other chief ministers and also crucially the centre. Here the politics of it also comes into play, Karan, because the BJP hasn't been too happy with this entire decision to elect Shashikala as the new legislature party leader. So what kind of dynamics actually work between the AIDMK under Shashikala as chief minister and the BJP government and the centre is also going to be extremely critical.
Now there's another issue, Apsara Reddy. Today's Business Standard says, and I'm quoting, grassroots party cadres don't seem enthused. Party cadres are unlikely to readily accept Shashikala in place of the late leader. And then this afternoon, P.N. Pandian, who is undoubtedly a very senior member of your party, a former speaker of Tamil Nadu, says that 90% of the AIADMK's cadres do not want Shashikala as chief minister. Is there a groundswell in your state, particularly from AIADMK cadres, against her being sworn in?
Not at all. Majority of our cadre, 1.5 crore members of our party, and the Tamil Nadu public, 7 crore plus people. We can't go by one Mr. P.H. Pandian, who's a disgruntled leader, who's an empty vessel. I didn't even understand the point of his press conference because there were no goals, there were no set objectives. He just went off like a loose cannon. There was no any kind of a correlation with what he was saying in the past, because he was somebody who was resisted the coming together of AIDMK again. He's a DMK stooge who's basically helped them foist cases against Amma in the past, as well as our senior leader said today. So I don't give much credence to what Mr. P.H. Pandian said. And in terms of the support that Madam enjoys, all our MLAs have actually polled their constituents and found out that there's majority of support for Madam. And I want to also get back to the point which Mr. Manu Sundaram made about Jallikattu and the Jallikattu protest reflecting the mood of the people. I'd like to remind him it was the miscreants from his party and his youth wing which basically caused havoc and ran amok. It was not. It was not the
this
students
is not
or
a
the general
discussion about
public. And second
Jallikattu.
of all,
Let's
about
not
TS
derail the
point about
discussion
celebration,
by raising
about
irrelevant
TS, no,
issues. I think it's
points were
unfair to
made.
the audience
These
watching
points
and
were made on
wanting
your
to
show.
understand
Mr.
a
T.S.
critical
Sodhi
issue,
said
not
that
to
there
have
were
it
no
deflected. I'm sorry,
celebrations.
I'm not
To
going to
answer that
permit you to
question,
carry
I'd
on
like to
about
make a point to you,
Jallikattu.
Mr.
This is
Thapar,
not about
that there were
Jallikattu. Can my
lots of
producer please
celebrations.
put the volume down? This is not about
Nobody spoke
Jallikattu.
about
Let's stick to
Jallikattu.
our subject.
He
Can the
raised-
producer
he raised
please
the
put the
point
volume
about the
down?
mood of the people.
Thank you. We're going to stick to
Jallikattu.
this subject. Can the volume please go down? This is not about Jallikattu. Let's stick to the issue we're tackling. It's important enough not to be deflected. Mr. Sundaram, I'm talking about Mr. Arya Sundaram. I know you believe the governor has no discretion and you've explained the constitutional grounds on which you believe he has no discretion. But the truth of the matter is that the governor is certainly taking his time returning to Chennai. As you pointed out, he's accepted with alacrity the resignation of Mr. Paneerselvam. Now he seems to be stalling to appoint a successor, even though a lady has been chosen unanimously by the legislature party and she has the majority in the assembly. Do you possibly think that the governor is actually dragging his feet at the behest of advice that he's got from the government in Delhi? You've heard Mr. T.S. Sudhir point out that the government in Delhi, and he wrote about this in Free Post today, is not keen to see Shashikala come in. Do you think, therefore, the governor is dragging his feet at the behest of advice from the Home Minister or the Prime Minister?
I would desist myself from giving an opinion on that, Karan, because you cannot really state what it is. But what I really believe is obviously, very obviously, will act based on what advice he himself receives from the center, from the Home Ministry. When I said that the governor has no discretion, of course he has a discretion if he feels law and order will break down or the person does not have the support. But I said in this case, when you have 136 MLAs, the governor has no discretion. Yes, he's dragging his feet, but I think it's very telling that he has made it clear that he's returning to Chennai tonight or tomorrow morning. And I think that is a very telling fact that perhaps he wanted to understand the constitutional issues involved, and having understood it, he's returning to Chennai. And let's not forget that he also has to recognize that this is an internal party matter, because after MGR died, the same thing happened in the ADMK. Janaki came to power, Jayalalitha was on the other side, and what happened was Janaki pushed herself into power at that time, but the whole cadre revolted. Maybe it will happen again, and maybe the people the cadre wants will come in. But that's not something for the governor to go into, the internal mechanisms of a party. He has to see whether the party which has the majority, whether they have elected by majority their leader.
All I'll point out is that, in fact, it's not as yet confirmed.
Now he's coming back to
All
Chennai
I'm going to point out is not as yet confirmed. The governor is returning either tonight or tomorrow. The governor hasn't actually issued any statement about it. Sources have told some channels that he could return tonight or could return tomorrow, but it's utterly unconfirmed and it's still source-based. We really have no idea when the governor is returning. Some people are even speculating that if there is going to be a swearing-in, it may not be till Thursday. Let me bring you in at that point, Manu Sundaram. Your leader, Stalin, is coming to Delhi tomorrow. It's been said that he's going to try and appeal both to the Prime Minister and the Home Minister not to swear in Shashikala. What makes you think that it's the correct thing to involve the centre and to get the centre to exercise influence in a way that would clearly be a breach of the Constitution?
Well, just like there is no confirmation about the governor coming to Chennai, I can't confirm that our party acting president will be going to Delhi tomorrow. But let me just make one small point, with your permission, about the discretionary powers, of the governor, because so much of the discussions revolved around it. The discretionary powers, I mean, when this came up in the constitution bench of B.R. Kapoor versus Tamil Nadu, the court asked, must the governor appoint any person if that person is an insolvent, a lunatic or a minor child just as long as all the 136 MLAs have elected that person. And the court said, no, that's not the case. The governor still has the discretion to keep in mind that he is duty bound to defend and protect the constitution. Now coming to your question, Mr. Thapar, the DMK will appeal to all constitutional authorities that this is not some sort of a soccer match, you know, where you can routinely change your captains or substitute your fielders. This is the core of democracy, or the sanctity of the assembly is at question, and the people who have voted in Tamil Nadu's elections, they have reposed faith in a particular party, and they have reposed faith and hope that there will be a stable and steady government, and that should be the main concern. All we can do as a responsible opposition is to voice the concern of the people and appeal to all constitutional authorities. We will not seek the president's rule or any such thing that goes against the principles of federalism, but we will appeal to the constitutional authorities to ensure there is stability in Tamil Nadu.
You know, Mukund Padmanabhan, when Sonia Gandhi first became Congress president way back in 1998, Jyoti Basu, who was then Chief Minister of Bengal, dismissed her as a mere housewife. He turned out to be terribly wrong. Not only is she the longest serving president of her party, but she's probably one of the better ones as well. And certainly she's brought her party back to power twice consecutively. Are we in danger of being equally mistaken and unfair in our attitude to Shashikala?
I think we could be. I think the jury is out on you know, we've been mistaken about people so often. I mean, Mrs. Gandhi was dismissed by the old guard of the Congress. So we have that example as well, as someone who, you know, didn't have much political experience and all of that. So I'm not sure. I'd be surprised if you know, she stays the course and she proves herself administratively, but I don't think it's something that you can rule out. I just want to say one thing on this issue of, I think everybody is agreed that the governor has no option but to swear her in. I mean, because I think the business about lunacy and you know, insolvency are already there in the Constitution. I mean, you know, you cannot do. They're barred by the Constitution. But she faces no such infirmity of that kind. But I think the governor has the discretion to delay, and you can't take that away from him. And I think that's exactly what he's doing, and I think it's the appropriate thing to do.
Very quick.
When there's a decision that is likely to be,
Very quickly, Sudhir, inevitably, if she is sworn in as Chief Minister, Shashikala will be compared to earlier Chief Ministers of Tamil Nadu. Now, that's a state that's actually had a very long, distinguished line of Chief Ministers. Rajagopalachari, Kamaraj, Annadurai, MGR, Karunanidhi, and of course, Jayalalitha. Do you believe that Shashikala can fill those shoes, or do you think she'll always, in comparison, be seen as a pygmy?
Well, those are definitely large shoes for her to fill in, and of course the big problem for Shashikala at this point in time is that of perception, the perception among the people at large that here is someone who perhaps does not deserve the high office of the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, and it is this image that she has to really fight against, because that's what is being reflected on the streets of Chennai, across Tamil Nadu, and of course on social media. Apsara Reddy made the point that the entire rank and file of the party is with Jayalalitha, but if 135 MLAs, 50 MPs, 50 district secretaries and dozen odd organizing secretaries actually constitute the entire AIDMK, well then it's a problem, because there is definite discontentment among the rank and file, among the lower cadre, and it would be wise on part of the AIDMK leadership, especially Team Shashikala, to actually listen to those voices of discontentment, because they do feel that here is someone who perhaps may not be able to match up to this huge legacy, especially that of the AIDMK, that she will be getting at this point in time if she indeed is sworn in as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu.
Let's take a break at that point. When I come back, I want to focus rather sharply and perhaps even narrowly on the strange, constitutionally almost anomalous situation we have at the moment, where the governor has with alacrity accepted the resignation of the last Chief Minister. There is a candidate who is certainly in constitutional terms fitted to be the new Chief Minister. She has the majority support of the ruling party, in fact the unanimous support, and yet the governor is deliberately not acting. He's dragging his feet. And so, welcome back. You're watching To The Point, and we're discussing the situation in Tamil Nadu. Mr. Arimasundaram, at the moment, we have a strange, almost constitutionally anomalous situation in Tamil Nadu. The former chief minister has resigned and his resignation has been accepted. Meanwhile, the ruling party has unanimously chosen a new legislative party head, but she's still not been sworn in, and no one really knows when that will happen. And there's an increasing perception that the governor could be dragging his feet. How long can this strange, unprecedented situation continue?
Not very long, Karan. The governor, as Mukund said earlier, does not have to swear in the person that very evening, although constitutional demands would maintain that it's done quickly and the vacuum is not left there. At the same time, he cannot really drag his feet. So maybe if it's delayed by a day or two, one could understand, but not more than that. And creating such a vacuum has been done by the governor himself in accepting a resignation and then suddenly saying, oh wait, now what do I do? He should have thought of it before accepting the resignation, perhaps told Sir Paneerselvam, look, don't resign as yet, wait for another week and then give your resignation. Maybe Paneerselvam would have agreed, maybe not, but did the governor even put it to him? Or did the governor just say, all right, yes, and then suddenly had second thoughts? In which case I think that the governor has lot at his door to answer to.
Okay. Mukund Padmanabhan, does the governor need to explain why he is, as we all keep calling it, dragging his feet rather than swearing in Shashikala expeditiously? Or can he maintain silence as he has up till now?
Well, it'd be nice and I think proper for him to explain, but I doubt, what kind of explanation can he possibly give? I think that we're in a sort of an odd situation here. I mean, we have the court saying that in a few days you'll have a judgment out. Consider what happens if he actually doesn't drag his feet and swears her in right now. And just imagine that, she is convicted a few days later. Look at the chaos that will ensue for this. I mean, I think he needs to keep that in mind too. So, yes, I do agree with Arima completely that, he is expected to swear a person in as soon as he can. And anything more than a delay of a few days is going to look odd. But I think given the circumstances, I think it would be best that he waits these few days. I think less is lost by doing that than by hurrying up and swearing her in. So I think if this is dragging its feet, I think he's right to drag it.
T.S. Sudhir, we know, and you made this point in part one, that not everyone in the party or amongst the MLAs is totally happy with Shashikala. Mr. Pandian and his son have made their disagreement and disenchantment public and well known. It's also, as you pointed out, reasonably well known that we don't know for sure where the party cadres stand. Is there any possibility of the party fracturing or splitting? Or is that really very unlikely because they have 4 years in power and that alone is sufficient glue to cement the party together behind Shashikala regardless of their personal feelings?
Well, Karan, I wouldn't give much importance to what M.H. Pandian or his son said today because they have been known Shashikala baiters for a long time and that animosity goes back to almost 1996. But yes, in fact, one of the people, IIDMK cadre members, told me today that they have no choice. They can't be going and applying to the DMK. So they have to rally around Shashikala because she's the only one who has a pan-AIDMK acceptability at this point in time. The big hurdle, the big challenge will come if she is convicted in the disproportionate assets case. What happens to the parties after that? There are some other members of her family who seem to be controlling the party to an extent at this point in time, but there is really no other leader within the AIDMK who has that kind of acceptability. So that's going to be a huge challenge. There will be parties from outside who would be trying to drive a wedge, expose the fault lines within the AIDMK. So it would be extremely, it would really be opening up itself up to a lot of poaching and perhaps other kind of political challenges if Shashikala is convicted. But if she is acquitted, I think all will be well as far as the AIDMK is concerned.
I know, Apsara Reddy, you said with great conviction and forcefulness in part one that there was no question of Shashikala being convicted next week when the Supreme Court makes its verdict in that appeal known. But let me ask you, good parties do prepare for the worst. That is a sensible, logical thing to do. Is the AIADMK party prepared for the possibility that Shashikala could be convicted next week?
Every political party worth its salt will have a plan B for any eventuality, but we are 100% sure. I can assure you that Chinnamma will come out clean. She's already been acquitted in this case. It's just a plea against her acquittal. There's nothing to worry about. And I also want to make a point about one of the comments that was made about P.H. Pandyan trying to split the party. He's a former irrelevant member of the party. When two warring brothers of the DMK and multiple members warring in the party couldn't split that party, why would one irrelevant member split AIDMK? And also I want to make a point about the celebrations which T.S. Sudhir doesn't seem to have captured and also doesn't seem to have understood that there was no official announcement of the swearing-in ceremony. The party has never, informed the cadres. There was no official announcement from the party. So what celebrations are you talking about?
Okay.
It was the media which was putting out dates and numbers. And second of all, I've heard Mr. Chidambaram make multiple comments all through the day and yesterday. And about Shashikala facing a disconnect with the cadres. I'd just like to put it out there that Mr. Chidambaram is an English-speaking Tamil politician who sits in Delhi, and everybody knows what kind of fate he faces at the hustings.
Okay.
And I don't think it's right on his part to say the state deserves better than Shashikala. What about his own leader, Rahul Gandhi? With all the exposure and education, he makes such a mockery of himself and his party.
You're a very fluent lady and a very good advocate of your party's cause. Let me put something to you, Manu Sundaram. That's going to have to be the last question. It would be natural for your party to be seeking ways of exploiting the present problem facing the AIADMK. Do you believe there is an opportunity here for you to exacerbate whatever differences exist, small or big, both within Shashikala and the MLAs and possibly Shashikala and the party cadres? Or will you be moral and say you will desist from stepping into these troubled waters?
Well, let me be honest with you. Our first priority is to ensure that there is some stability in the government. Now, what we've observed over the last 2 months is the rift between the chief ministerial aspirant Shashikala and the people who have voted for the ADMK is growing larger by the day. Now, that is something we feel will work in our favor when Ms. Shashikala either tries to contest in her election to become an MLA, or when the inevitable local body elections will take place in Tamil Nadu in the coming months.
Okay.
So these will be our immediate sort of focus points where we will try to ensure that people understand what the DMK stands for, and that we can provide a more stable and steady and a more experienced form of governance than Ms. Shashikala. So
Okay.
that's what we would be focusing on, and like I said, we will appeal to all constitutional authorities
Okay.
to make sure that nothing unconstitutional takes place in the next few days.
All right, like a good strategist, you're keeping your powder dry till a good opportunity, possibly the local body elections, comes your way. My thanks to all my guests for joining me. This is a situation that will clearly resolve itself one way or another within the next couple of days. If it doesn't, then there will be serious concerns about the vacuum that's been created and how wise it's been of the governor to let that vacuum continue. For tonight, goodbye.